It's a new venue this weekend for SRO America, and that means a new venue for Toyota GR Cup North America. We're at the dazzling Road Atlanta in the beautiful rolling hills of Georgia. I'm Jonathan Grace. I'll have Ryan Marine alongside me for today's second race of the weekend. New territory, Ryan, for all of these drivers. We've seen that in every SRO America championship for one of the most hotly contested single-make championships in GR Cup. It has been an absolute treat. Yesterday's race was a barn burner. We saw contenders have to charge up from an unfavorable qualifying position in Max Wide. That should be remedied today. We saw dominance continued for Spike Kohlbecker, and we have seen throughout the whole weekend really treacherous conditions. It has been hot, it has been humid, and it has been grip limited.
And a potential wrinkle is impending weather. Looks like maybe in the next 10 minutes there's a chance some rain could move into the area. Cloudy conditions, we haven't really seen that much so far this weekend, and with the clouds, the overall air temperature is down slightly from where they've been, certainly going back to when this race was held yesterday.
And I don't know that it'll feel like that in the cockpit with how humid it is, because it is about 10% more humid. There is the beautiful field of all of these 29 GR Cup cars who will be starting today's contest. The usual suspects at the sharp end of the grid. It's Spike Kohlbecker and Jeremy Fletcher, your two championship protagonists, but we saw a special year start to develop and come to fruition in Sebring last year for champion Weston Workman. This has the makings of a really dazzling year for Spike Kohlbecker, an unprecedented 5 wins this season. Yesterday's mark tied him for the most wins all time in this championship.
Amazing, and part of that is his longevity, but a lot of it has to do with the dominance he's displayed to start 2026. Not just the wins, I mean, that's impressive enough, but no finish worse than second through the start of the season to this point, and that's left him with a commanding lead in the points.
We talked yesterday on the broadcast about maximizing your worst day. If your worst day is a second place finish, that's a pretty good result. It is just about time to go trackside for the command to fire engines, and these Boxer 4-cylinder engines will fire to life. It is a healthy grid, Ryan, and I think we will see racing as close as ever. If yesterday's race was any indication, these cars love to run nose to tail.
29 cars on the grid, and they are tightly compacted. When you look at qualifying times, I mean, it's basically nothing between starting up front or starting mid-pack. Just a little slip up on your best lap can cost you several rows of the starting grid in a championship as close and hotly contested as this, when everybody's working with the same machinery.
That's absolutely true. These are heavily production-based cars, remarkably similar to the GR86 that you can just waltz into a Toyota dealership and buy if you can find one, because they're very popular. I know. I've tried, and it's been difficult, but I used to have a previous iteration of this car, and I loved it to death. These are even turned up a little bit more. More horsepower in the GR86 configuration, and plenty for these drivers to work with. Let's take a look at how the grid evolves. Your pole sitter, Spike Kohlbecker, and your points leader as well, alongside Jeremy Fletcher. He's got Will Robusto behind him in third, sharing the second row of the grid with Ethan Goulart. Parker DeLong, nearly a race win yesterday for the young 17-year-old alongside Ethan Hayers. Nico Colby, another dazzling youngster, starts on the fourth row of the grid. He's got Max Schwein for company alongside Malbec Ramos for 10. that bottlenecks into turn 3, and now the first challenge on the brakes. This is where you could so easily get it wrong as you descend the hill into the S's. Those GR86 cars a little tail happy, but they can eat up a lot of curbs, and that can produce a lot of lap time. Will Robusto knows all about that. Now too does Jeremy Fletcher. Unbelievable car control. Ryan Marine, you and I are both mouth agape at the skill demonstrated by the top 3.
How in the world did Will Robusto hang on to that race car? It was pointed sideways across the track. Credit as well to Goulart, DeLong, Ayers, everybody behind to not panic when they saw a car broadside right across the way. Wow, that was eye-popping stuff. Thankfully, everyone able to continue on.
Putting the strike in curb strike, but somehow managing to keep the field green and keep the cars underneath them. The field fans out down this long, arcing not so straightaway that technically include 2 turns, but they're really just kinks in the racetrack. But Spike Kohlbecker turning the wheel this way and that to try to break any semblance of a slipstream. I think behind there is a little bit of damage. We see Garrett Maines with a crumpled nose, and was he cut up in that opening melee? We'll check back in with the front of the field because Will Robusto was eager and hungry to make moves early.
Wow, he put that behind him quickly, right on the attack, was able to line up the move down at the bottom of the hill around Fletcher, move Robusto up to the 2nd spot. Car off at the gravel, right-hand side of the screen.
It certainly is. That is the 5, I believe, of Beltray Curtis, someone who we had been seeing just need to have a breakthrough result, and unfortunately that will not go. Curious to see if he can get that car back on track. Further back, 4, 5 even wide, now 3 into the braking zone. The 25 car on the outside, and now off into the dirt. Everybody fighting for position. That's Colby. Gets his car back on track now and finally rejoins, although he'll slot in right behind Massimo Sinceri. A comeback effort for him after a scary impact. Great job for the BSI crew to get that car rebuilt overnight.
Nico Colby, pretty good save there for that young man. Just a teenager, very early in his teens. Finished inside the top 10 at 8th one day ago, but he drops well down the order now. That cost him a little bit of time.
Emilio Delaro on the move as Slater Colby has slotted back in the order, having rejoined the field. Nico Colby further up the order continues to impress, sitting in 7th place. Spike Kohlbecker continues to lead over Will Robusto, now in 2nd place. Jeremy Fletcher, we know he needed a dream start. He's sitting 3rd, but is that enough?
Well, not for him, not at this point, especially not if he still harbors championship aspirations. Robusto not waiting around either. He's lining up the move on Kohlbecker, who's been the man of the hour pretty much all season long. Robusto, 2nd straight lap. He's been able to make a pass right there.
With the threat of weather towards the end of this race, Will Robusto wanted to get to the 4 as quickly as possible. He talked to us preseason about minimizing little mistakes and maximizing where he can. Trying to maximize on the points leader now. He's a little bit further down in the championship hunt, but the best he can do is win this race as more cars go off. That's the 93 of Brunson, who finally regains his composure and is able to hopefully safely navigate the hill down towards turn 12. There's a crumpled nose of Garrett Maines. Plenty of action early on, Ryan.
No question about it. I'd like to correct myself. I picked out the wrong Colby. Nico Colby still going well. Actually made up a spot up to 7th. That was Slater Colby that we saw having the moment a little while ago. Robusto, since getting around Kohlbecker, interestingly, has been able to pull a bit of a gap. Not an easy thing to do in this championship, and Kohlbecker himself looks vulnerable now. Fletcher starting to line up a move.
Saw a message from Race Control that Emilio Delaro and Beltray Curtis have fallen under the eyes of the stewards for some fisticuffs on track, but Will Robusto will try to keep this gaggle of cars behind. He's got one of the best in the business, having a dream season, is the Tech Sport driver, Spike Kohlbecker, but Jeremy Fletcher has right on the back of Spike Kohlbecker, is caught back up. He would love to regain 2nd and try to take the lead of this motor race, but the top 4 or 5, ending with DeLong, have separated at the front of this field. And DeLong impressed us yesterday too. He genuinely had a shot at the race win, a podium for him, still knocking on the door of an inaugural GR Cup win, but he's got an expert in Ethan Goulart just in front.
Now, interesting, a couple of Tech Sport teammates were on the podium yesterday when you talk about DeLong and then Kohlbecker, who got the win. Side by side here, as Robusto is under pressure once more from Kohlbecker. He's able to hang on to the spot with a little assist from his friend that time. Fletcher got to the back bumper and helped to push Robusto back through to the lead.
2 by 2 down the treacherous turn 12, and it's Fletcher and Goulart still door to door. Spike Kohlbecker wants the lead of this race back. We've gone 3 wide with Robusto at the front, but is it going to stay that way? The baby blue car, the number 15 of Spike Kohlbecker, daring on the inside. There is grip on that inside line, but if you're brave enough to hold it, they are door to door. So too is Parker DeLong trying to make up moves. Jeremy Fletcher would like to shut the door, but he hops over the inside curbs before they change the direction down the hill.
Robusto really sent it in there at the top of the hill and didn't even bother trying to get down to the apex, just wanted to carry enough speed to make sure he was clear of Kohlbecker. That's allowed him to maintain the lead.
Fletcher shuffles back one. Behind, looming, I can see Nico Colby and Max Schweid. DeLong up a position, though, and now he has his sight set on Spike Kohlbecker in his crosshairs. Fletcher needs to start to capitalize with a youngster in front of him. Ryan, as they set up for the most important corner on this racetrack, Fletcher gets his composure back, but nearly went off.
Well, he'll have his hands full here. Did that cost him momentum? It looked like he actually was able to gather it up pretty well out of 6 and get it wound up for 7, which is that crucial corner you alluded to. Leads to this long full throttle section, and if you struggle out of 7, you will be vulnerable at the bottom of the hill in 10A and B. Looks like he was able to minimize the damage done, but he's coming under attack here from Goulart and Ayers.
There's that stricken car of Mainz now coming under pressure himself from Emilio Delaro, who was under investigation and trying to make up ground lest he fall afoul of a penalty later on. Plenty of action and bodywork hanging off further down in the field. And they go side by side as they crest the hill. That's the 12 car of Joseph Manley battling with Malbec Ramos. Ramos had a really busy race yesterday, managed to keep the nose clean. And already Joseph Manley with a little bit of damage on that car. Malbec Ramos in the 17 car carrying some damage on the front right, hops on the brakes, but it is wheel to wheel with Manley in front. They go side by side as they drift way wide.
Wow, that is super close between these two. Ramos settles back in line. Had a great day yesterday, finished 5th. That's his best result of the season. Settling into a nice rhythm here, though, further down the order. This is just on the fringes of the points in the back half of the top 10.
So Malley holding position at the moment, quite a ways back from Nico Colby. And there's this battle at the beginning, the front of the field resuming. Spike Kohlbecker led the field to green, has now fallen to 3rd because the youngster Parker DeLong is still in 2nd.
Parker DeLong on the move here. Behind him, looks like it's another close battle as Kohlbecker gets the worst of that, gets shoved down a little bit wide, and that costs him the position and some momentum. Meanwhile, race control has a ruling.
Yes, they do. Incident responsibility, a drive-through for the 007. That's BSI's Emilio Delaro further back in the field. He's at the tail end of the battle we just checked in on. But here at the front, look at the two that are closing. It's Max Schweid who carved through the order yesterday. He's towing Nico Colby along with him, and they're about to join this battle.
Schweid is up to 6th place. Really good charge from him. And full course yellow is out. We've got a car off in the wall.
That's Ethan Goulart, the 72. He was fighting inside the top 5 or 6 positions, has found the wall hard. That looks like the exit of turn 7. He is out of the car quickly and walks away with the head hung. Here is that battle we saw when Kohlbecker was shuffled back alongside Max Schweid and significantly off the pace. He was tussling with some of those drivers. He didn't hit the wall. He pulled over off track and did so sportingly to not terribly interrupt the momentum of anyone behind him on the straightaway who were full throttle, but he is out of the race car.
Tough break for the Shelton, Connecticut native, 2nd-generation driver Ethan Goulart. Race winner at VIR 1 year ago and went into the finale at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with thoughts of a potential championship or at least a top 3 in the results, and had a couple of DNFs in that round at Indy. This season's not quite gone according to plan either. Still looking for that first podium of the season, and he's going to have to wait about a month and a half for his next crack at it. That's the next round at Road America at the end of August.
Nice chance to catch up with Shea Holbrook in Arlington, and she had a lot of really complimentary things to say about Ethan Goulart, but she said, the one thing I will say, this is going to be his growth year. This is probably going to be his toughest year because we're going to push him. They pushed Weston Workman last year a lot, and it paid dividends, but she's like, this is where he has to dig and do a lot of the hard work and fix some of those little things that's holding him back from being the great driver that she knows he is.
Well, that's reminiscent to some of the things that Shea was quoted as saying about Weston Workman going into the season last year, and I remember thinking to myself, is that really the message you want to send? Is that really the amount of pressure you want to put your young driver under? But pressure makes diamonds, right? And we saw it really worked a year ago where it invigorated Weston Workman en route to a championship.
One of the things they did is she just invited Weston for the weekend to spend the weekend with her and her family at the home. They went out on the boat. He did chores around the house with them. He helped cook dinner, do the laundry, things like that. And he said that probably made one of the biggest differences in his year. year, just understanding that he is part of this BSI family. One of the monikers that they like to rifle off is that their drivers are BSI built, and I think Shea really puts a lot of weight into that word built, because they grow these drivers. They evolve them more than just behind the wheel and pouring through data, but as individuals as well. I think we saw that with Weston. His composure changed throughout the season, his maturity level changed, and certainly he got faster in the race car. I think one ties into the other.
It's a great little team based out of Daytona Beach, Florida. Not so little anymore, actually. I'm probably not giving them their due when I attach that adjective, but what Shea has built, herself a former racing driver, and I think that can really help too when it comes to managing these young drivers and helping to put their mind in the right place to get the ultimate performance out of them. She's been in that position herself and knows how to speak the right language.
A look at some of the movers and shakers in this race, up 7 positions, the biggest movement in the field from Livio Galante, up 7 positions from his starting spot of 24th. That Dream Machine at Eagles Canyon entry, having a dream start, and as the field bunches up, that might help his efforts in moving forward even more. I think if someone is going to be happy with the field bunching up, it's Spike Kohlbecker, because he was jostled back a few positions early in this race, fighting on the exit of turn 7. He can afford to do that because of his significant points lead, but either way, he would love to sweep the weekend here at a new racing venue.
Right, yeah, he's plenty motivated, that's for sure, and right now shuffled back a little bit, as you point out, but still in a really good position. You were talking about the race yesterday and just how fierce the fighting was, and you never felt like any position was solidified until it became clear at the end of the race that they were locked in. But, you know, up to that point, if you're in the top 5, arguably the top 10 at this point, you still have to feel like you've got a pretty good chance to come away with a win.
Something I've been impressed by has been the pace of that number 11 car. Stricken nose or not, has not seemed to hurt the pace of Garrett Maines, who I think was caught up in some of the bunching and the concertina effect by Will Robusto and Jeremy Fletcher taking flight through the S's. I think just nosed into the back of one of the competitors in front. He was locked in step with Max Schweid, who has made his way up the order now to his position now of 6th. But for Garrett Maines in 10th in that number 11 car, that doesn't seem to have affected his performance any. These are heavily production-based car. That's just the nose cone off of the normal GR86, barring a few 3D printed modifications for performance and a splitter fitted to the bottom, tow hook and things like that. But otherwise, it's remarkably similar.
I think as long as he's in the pack, it's not going to be too much of a hindrance, but I do wonder if he makes his way up towards the front or he ends up leading a pack if they start to split off. That could be a bit like a parachute dragging behind. It's certainly not the most aerodynamic look you're going to have.
We saw that actually from Maite Caceres yesterday in the 812. She's now found her way into 19th place. She finished roughly mid-pack yesterday as the highest finishing female. Was carrying some rear bumper damage that had unclipped just a little bit but not detached. And while it might have been a little bit of an air dam on the straightaways, it certainly didn't hurt her pace in the corners, because she was quicker than most of her compatriots and was making moves off and around the outside, even with the damaged rear body work.
Got a decent result, like you said, 16th overall yesterday, and that will be a good message to pass along in the case of Garrett Maines, that, hey, nothing to worry about. You're still in a position where you can fight for a decent result. There is Maite there, Rafa Racing Team.
That car, barring a little bit of Continental Tire rubber on the 812 sticker, clean as a whistle. Maite's run a good race so far and has really impressed us this season. So too has the Rafa Racing organization, a name that was really unknown in the racing world just a couple years ago. And now look at their representation across multiple SRO America paddocks, not the least of which is the GR Cup grid.
Well, Rafael Martinez is the eponymous Rafa in Rafa Racing, and he has built a little empire for himself in a short amount of time, but a big part of that was their acquisition of the Smooge Racing team, which we had seen in SRO America and other series too, racing primarily at the GT4 level. That brought along with it Kevin Conway, a former racing driver who is the team manager and has been running that operation since the Smooge days, and that's built a nice foundation then that Rafa's been able to bring some additional resources to, and that's how they've been able to grow in such a sprawling way in a short amount of time. But you know, the bare bones of it were there before, and I think a lot of credit has to go to Kevin Conway, who's really done a great job shepherding this program. Rafa's got a lot of dreams and a lot of plans, and then Kevin's job is to sort through them and figure out which of them are applicable now and somehow find a way to make them a reality.
Many of those dreams, I think, coming to fruition with how ubiquitous they are in North American racing here. A message from race control. Ava Schlitz has been ordered in front of Patrick Brunson. We saw the 93 go off track at turn 11 over the crest of the hill. I wonder if that was related. Either way, race control has slotted the 93 back one position, but he runs just behind the 85. Running away from the pack is the GR Super Safety Car. Will Robusto will have the responsibility of controlling the field and taking them to green. Will Robusto leads Parker DeLong, Jeremy Fletcher points leader, Spike Kohlbecker, Ethan Ayers, and Max Schweid. The youngster Nico Colby sits 7th. It is anyone's game in the top 5, top 6, and the top 4 or 5 immediately separate as they crest the hill down turn 11. The swooping turn 12. Will Robusto already a great jump off the bat.
And he needed it as well. He's got a snarling pack of hungry drivers behind him, as evidenced by their willingness to go 2-4 wheels off track sometimes, just trying to find a way to make it side by side. Here's a little battle making its way down into turn 1. That's for the 4th and 5th positions. Kohlbecker and Ayers.
Kohlbecker was untouchable yesterday. I think some of the other drivers in the top 5 may have studied his onboards, and they've got his number today. Came under pressure from Ethan Ayers. Max Schweid is hungry behind. He charged from 18th position way up the order yesterday for a phenomenal race result. But it's Will Robusto at control of this field. Nobody sideways down through the S's on this restart. Everybody clean for the time being. The Continental Tires, though, getting a healthy dose of Georgia clay as they now prepare to hit the binders into turn 6.
Here is another look from Kohlbecker, just taking a peek to the inside of Fletcher, who settled into that 3rd position. Black and orange machine from the Copeland stable. Late lunge there to the inside by Ayers, trying to plot a course past Kohlbecker, but Spike closes the door.
I've been so interested in seeing drivers in this series attempt moves at turn 7 because logically you would say, why would you ruin your run all the way down the straightaway? But these cars, especially as momentum-based as they are, it hasn't hurt them all that much, and you can spring a trap either way. Kohlbecker remains, I think, a little bit out of position both, just in different ways here. And now it's going to be a real challenge as they hit the brakes into 10A. Kohlbecker very defensive to the inside, mains to the outside, which becomes the inside line for the chicane of turn B, and they touch, and it's Spike Kohlbecker somehow managing to keep the car on the racetrack, but he's going to lose 1 and maybe 2 positions as they head down the hill.
Maybe more than that. Look at this battle pack snarling its way up and through. Schweid is through. Also, Colby and Ramos are there. Kohlbecker has been drop kicked all the way back to the 7th spot.
I wonder if he's battling an issue in that race car, because the pace he showed yesterday has absolutely disappeared, and it's the rest of the field hungry to get a measure on the guy that has led the championship and led the field for most of this season. I think everybody wants a piece of Spike Kohlbecker right now.
He looks vulnerable, and that's not something we've said hardly at all in 2026, but he's not going to make it easy. Oh, big impact to the outside. A couple of cars collected.
And some tire bundles moved as well. Race control doing the right thing, throwing the full course caution. As soon as they saw that accident, the field will halt again. Will Robusto and Jeremy Fletcher, who was in the middle of setting up a move, it would appear, on Parker DeLong, will slow down again with 26 minutes to go. Kohlbecker was fighting his way through the field, went off track in a heavy way, and some damage, it would appear, maybe some body rubbing as well with the 11. We saw the crinkled nose on that front left corner early on, and that has appeared to get a little bit worse.
Well, the 2 cars that went off, Malbec Ramos, Spike Kohlbecker, they certainly are done for the day. That puts that streak we talked about earlier of no finish worse than 2nd out of the question now for Spike Kohlbecker. That will be snapped here today. And for Ramos, who had a solid day a day ago, as we talked about, finishing up in the 5th spot, tough way for their day to come to an end.
It certainly is. Those 2 cars went off in a very heavy way. These are production-based cars, but they're remarkably safe. They're fitted with a whole suite of OMP safety equipment, including a racing seat that's FIA approved, a roll cage. The driver has all of their normal racing protection and Nomex and Hans device and what have you around them. And the tire bundle's doing a good job. I know it can be dramatic when you see the bundles move like that, but it means they're doing their job in dissipating the energy of the race cars. Hope to see that they are out and walking away soon. Incident involving 15 and 17 under review, understandably.
Yeah, that's the incident with Ramos and Kohlbecker there. And you might wonder, okay, both cars are out of the race. Why bother doing a review? But it's all part of the process, and there are, depending on the severity of incidents, there can be penalty points applied to drivers' licenses, which can carry further sanction if too many are accumulated over the course of a season. So even if the race is done for the cars in question, you still have to go through that process. Meanwhile, Maines with that crumpled up nose, a little bit of tire smoke, I suspect, might be rubbing those Continentals up on the left side of the bodywork that's been bent back into the wheel well.
I would suspect that steering isn't exactly straight as well, because I saw what looked like a little bit more than factory camber on that front left tire. The setup windows on these cars are fairly narrow. I don't think they allow for that much angle, but it hasn't affected his pace too much for the time being. But I do wonder if he was involved, because he was right at the epicenter of that huge gaggle of cars that was attempting to go side by side through arguably the most technical part of this racetrack.
I don't know if it was this car specifically, but back on the very first lap, we saw a concertina, and I noticed that was one of the cars we thought that might have been involved in that. Okay, there were a few that got contacted nose to tail, and it looked like he got the worst of it, quite frankly.
Some damage on the 70 as well. Not quite damage, just evidence of contact, shall we say. That's Jay Thomas for Nitro Motorsports. Some crinkling on the back of Massimo Sinceri's number 51 as well. He ended up in the tire wall yesterday in a heavy crash, and the BSI crew did a phenomenal job overnight to rebuild that race car and get him qualifying ready, and he looked just as on the pace as ever. One thing I am seeing, more than one car has flashed their windshield wipers. Whether that was by mistake or not, we have seen the cloud cover. It has gotten visibly darker, but we're not anticipating rain for another 10 minutes or so. But crucially, there are 23 and a half minutes left in this race.
Oh yeah, it's not a done deal, and you can't guarantee with any certainty when you make those weather predictions when exactly the rain is going to arrive. All we know is there's some in the area, and the atmospheric conditions lend themselves to potential precipitation before this race is all said and done.
We talked about Jay Thomas, has worked his way up to 10th from 18th position. Livio Galanti, another place up, now 8 positions to the good. So too is Wilson, down in the number 90 car. Was one of the members that brought out the red flag in qualifying 1 and truncated that session as he tangled with Brunson. Having a phenomenal comeback drive today. Did participate yesterday as well, but plenty of drivers moving up through the field. Beltre, Curtis, and Ramos, those out of this race effectively, or at least shuffled well down the order. And 2 cars, I think, well and truly out, alongside the 72, who we saw pull over on the front straightaway that caused the first of now 2 full course cautions.
And you can see some of the track equipment out on the circuit there, which would indicate to me they need to readjust the tire barrier. Not a surprise given the nature of the impact that we saw, and you commented on it earlier, the fact that that tire bundle moved, but that would signify to me that it had absorbed quite a bit of the impact. And it's really all about directing the energy, the force of a crash away from the driver in the racing seat, and that's something these tire barriers have done very, very well over the years.
One thing that was encouraging, if you can call the way the cars went off track slightly encouraging, is that they went off sideways. That will have scrubbed more speed than if they went off straight. And of course, the safety equipment through the S's, they know that it's a very high-speed section of the racetrack. There is safety precautions, those tire bundles amongst them in place to help aid with that. You can see some of the evidence of the tire bundles, and it appears the cars have been moved, which is a good sign. But the recovery equipment, the rebuild effort to get those safety bundles back in place, because if there is another incident in that part of the racetrack, you want the bundles to be there and fresh and ready. Sometimes they'll deliver new tires, sometimes they will simply replace them if the structure has been maintained, but it looks like that work is well underway.
And hopefully it can be done with alacrity. We'd love to get this race restarted, if at all possible, past the halfway mark now, and we'll be well under 20 minutes to go by the time they come around to complete another lap here behind the safety car. Still waiting to see just what the extent of the repairs to the barrier are going to be. But this team here at Road Atlanta, they have so much experience dealing with situations like this, and they'll get it attended to as quickly as possible.
Just before the full course yellow, an incident between Spike Kohlbecker and the 78 car of Ethan Ayers came under review, and then of course the incident we saw that caused the yellow, tangling with the 17, also drawing the eyes of the steward. That's Malbec Ramos, who is also out of this race. lights still on the safety car. One thing we will not have to worry about is how much life is left in those Continental tires, because they'll have spent a significant portion of this race behind yellow, which makes the challenge for Will Robusto, I think, that much greater, because he has a very, very hungry Parker DeLong just behind him, eerily similar to the situation we saw for DeLong yesterday, Ryan. He was sitting in second and then still finished on the podium in the race, and I think a phenomenal effort for him, but so hungry for a race win. Just 17 years of age, has done a lot of work in other single-make championships, has chosen to lend his talents to Toyota GR Cup, and we're glad he has. He's come onto the scene and showed a lot of promise early in the season, but hasn't quite been in the conversation for a race win, but he certainly was yesterday. He absolutely is today.
Right. Frankly, surprised that yesterday was the first podium he'd been able to notch this season. I remember his debut at Road America last year, and he was there fighting at the front in his first ever start in the series. Ultimately had to settle for 5th place. Even though he only ran the second half of the year last year, he finished 11th in points, so was able to finish inside the top 10 with some regularity, and you felt like he was on the precipice of maybe being one of those breakout performers here in 2026. It started well, 2 top 5 finishes in Arlington, but since then, the highs have been not as high as he would have liked, and there have been some difficult lows as well, including a DNF at Sonoma. But yesterday, I think more representative of the kind of pace that Parker has at his disposal.
One of the things I really truly love about this series is that it forces growth and development even from very talented drivers. Take Spike Kohlbecker or Weston Workman. The year that Weston Workman won his championship last year was not his first crack at the series by any stretch. He had to work, he had to fight for that breakthrough win, and once he did, the floodgates opened and it all worked out for him from there. Not for a lack of effort from either him or BSI Racing, but you suspect this year is similar for Spike Kohlbecker even on a day when he is out of this race. The air has gotten visibly less visible, shall we say, and it looks windy out there, and I know wind in this part of the country at this time of the year can sometimes indicate a little bit of precipitation, and I am seeing the windshield wipers start to fall. I wonder if there are raindrops down there through the S's.
I do too. From this shot, at least momentarily, I thought I might have seen some rain, but that could have just been some dust kicked up by that heavy breeze that has certainly picked up extensively just in the last 5 minutes, it would appear. Seeing the trees rustling there in the background, saw some leaves getting blown across the track as well. These weather conditions, we talked about them off the jump. We thought they would evolve over the course of this relatively short race, and we've seen that so far. The question is, will it stay dry, or will we be forced to see the wet weather tires before it's all said and done?
Just outside of the commentary box window, I can see the stars and stripes rippling in the wind, and the trees are swaying here in the rolling hills of Georgia as these cars continue to roll behind the GR Supra safety car. Safety, of course, is the main thing on the minds of the stewards. Look at the wind you were talking about, all the leaves and debris of the track. There's the shot of the American flag over this beautiful road circuit here in Georgia. Of course, you want to make sure that the track repairs are done and everything is safe to go racing, but if there is precipitation on the track, then we need to fit the wet weather Continentals to these cars to make it safely. They will race in the rain, but that will require a trip into the split pit lane that we see here this weekend.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic to this racetrack. Not the first split pit lane we've seen, though, this year. We saw that at Arlington, didn't we, in the season opener?
Although this one is well and truly split
Yes.
because there are 2 separate pit exits. Look at the dotted lines there, one to the right and one to the left. There are deltas that mitigate the advantage of choosing or being selected for one over the other, but it would appear that the support pit lane you see to the right of your screen, driver's left, would be the easier of the entries. The more difficult one, you would consider that the pro pit lane that we see for GT World Challenge later to driver's right. That's a really tricky pit entry.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got teams paddocked on both sides of the circuit, which is why both pit lanes are in use in Toyota GR Cup North America. Just a quick anecdote, and I'm about to embarrass my father. Oh, that is rain. That's definitely rain we see on the screens there. So that's going to add another wrinkle to this race. But just quickly, my dad raced here for the first time a couple of years ago in a kind of club level race. He's not much one for the sim, so he didn't really know his way around. And when he came over the hill in 11 for the first time, he ended up out wide to the left, and unbeknownst to himself, ended up in that outer pit lane and didn't quite know how he got there or how to get out. Not a problem any of these drivers would have, because I'm sure they spent extensive time on the simulator in preparation for this race. But Dad told me that story, and I thought, oh my, I would have
think in the race car, he's thinking, boy, this track is really narrowed up down towards turn 1. And oh boy, all of a sudden he's just in front of the press boxes in the tower. But you know, it's interesting. On the point of the simulator, I had a chance to catch up with some of these drivers before the weekend. And the one thing I kept hearing is for those who had not been here before, how surprised they were by the elevation, which you think, okay, this track is in almost every single simulator from any manufacturer you get, but you don't get the undulations and the feeling of elevation change that you get. It's one thing if you're treated as a spectator to being able to watch this racetrack that grows ever damp in what is certainly a pretty heavy rainfall now here. You can see it moving through our camera shot. That racing surface is getting very, very slick. The undulations and the rolling hills, even on the not-so straightaway down here towards turn 10A and B, there was a lot of elevation. The S's, I think, would come to mind immediately.
I don't know if you do the same thing, but if I'm driving this on the sim or any track with major elevation change, I'll like sit up higher in my chair as if it's going to change my vantage point. Like, what is up there over that hill? And to some degree, I think it's almost harder virtually, because you can get up in your chair a little bit when you're in the racing seat, and you can move around to get the vantage point that you're looking for. But you know, it's one of the things that makes this place such a challenge, such a classic circuit. Opened up in 1970. It's an amazing story. A couple of local businessmen and sports car racing enthusiasts had this crazy notion to build a road course in the middle of stock car country. Can-Am, this was back in 1969, Can-Am had another race on their calendar drop off last minute, and they needed a replacement. So David Sloyer, Earl Walker, and Arthur Montgomery, who came up with the idea for Road Atlanta, put this place together in less than 6 months. It was excavated, paved, graded, everything in under 6 months to be ready to host its first race back on September 13th of 1970.
That's incredible, especially going back to the elevation. This is not an easy place to navigate by foot or by vehicle, really, to get around in any kind of meaningful, expeditious way. You have to have, at the very least, a golf cart to do. It's hard to navigate by foot. I think the furthest distance, luckily, we've had to travel is just between booths here on flat ground. But for the photographers, for the videographers, for the folks back then building the racetrack, to get materials around is a significant challenge. That's remarkable.
Yeah, and it's been a classic really ever since it opened. I've told the story on a few shows already this weekend, but that first race held here, a Can-Am event, it was won by Tony Dean, whose son is Richard Dean of United Autosports fame. But the pole sitter for that race was Vic Elford in a Chaparral. Denny Holm and Peter Revson, two Grand Prix drivers, they were in the race, and the Grand Marshal was Sir Sterling Moss.
Unbelievable, star-studded cast.
Right?
Wow.
So it started off with high aspirations, and really hasn't tapered off much since then. This has become a classic venue here at in North America that we see drivers come from far afield who want to be a part of this.
Absolutely. I think everyone would like to go back racing, but to do so safely is the name of the game. Windshield wipers in full effect. Those are the same windshield wipers that you can get on the road car. They do a great job. I used to have one of these cars, and I loved it to death. Did great in the rain. Jeremy Fletcher, though, right on cue, has gone off a little bit. Did not lose a position, but look at the water pouring out of that wheel well. Ryan, they are still on slick tires, even though they are at harbor speed here. They are swimming in the harbor, and that swimming will come to an end. The checkered flag has fallen. That will do it. Race control throwing an early end to this race under Rules Article 43.1, which allows them to do so for safety reasons. These are the results locked in. This is why Will Robusto was charging so hard to get to the front of this field, and he will take the win in race 2 in a rain-affected and yellow-affected contest in front of Parker DeLong, a second podium. How about it? A weekend where he gets his first podium. He follows it up a day later in treacherous conditions with Jeremy Fletcher third.
Wow, what a dramatic weekend for so many reasons, and race control really left with no choice here with all of this rain that has come down. And the only question I have, I guess, is do they have to come around and complete this lap, or do they lock in the positions here? I only ask because they are out on slicks here, and there is always the fear of hydroplaning even behind the safety car.
Well, Will Robusto, look at how carefully he is navigating this racetrack as they all start to peel in, presumably towards pit lane. Or we'll see if they take the checkered flag. I suspect they will. Down the hill, yes, they will. And so they'll have to do another revolution of what is now a very treacherous racetrack. We called it Harbor Speed, and I think that might be a fitting moniker for how much water is out. It's still a wet pump of the fist out the window. He won't care for the water. Will Robusto, job done. He did enough early on to put that 2 car to the 4 and deliver a win to RVA Graphics by Speed Syndicate.
Well, congratulations to Will. That was hard fought and well earned, and you were right. I mean, right from the word go, he was on the attack, wasn't he? Trying to get the track position. Everybody knew the score. Everyone knew there was impending weather in the area that could have the consequence of cutting short the race, so there was no sense waiting around, and Robusto was very aggressive getting to the front, and he's rewarded for it with the result here today.
3 podiums this season, now 4, and his first win of 2026 as well for Will Robusto. A driver that had his mind on the title fight and is still in the hunt, albeit many points back from what has been a dominant Spike Kohlbecker. He is mathematically in the hunt, but today's win will help, especially on a day when Spike will score 0 points.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. It's a big swing. 25 points he gains just in one fell swoop here, with scoring maximum points and Spike not scoring any today. And that's why you can't, in a field this deep, you can't feel comfortable with any points lead, really, unless it's up over 25 points going into the final round of the season, because one miscue, as we saw, one little mistake, and that can have major consequences to your championship bid.
We saw the checkered flag come out early, but just before that, Jeremy Fletcher had gone off track and regained his position without actually losing any ground. That might have been crucial because he did so before the checkered flag fell. Had he fallen back, he may not have been allowed to keep that position.
Right.
But in doing so, he slotted back into 3rd and got that Copeland machine home to a 3rd place finish. That's a decent haul of points for him, but a really phenomenal effort for Parker DeLong as well. Not someone who had his eyes on the title this year, more on development and improvement, but 2 podiums, back-to-back, a 3rd and a 2nd, is a great result for him.
Definitely, definitely. That's you're obviously here trying to get race wins and score maximum points, but if you can come away with 2 podiums on a weekend of Toyota GR Cup racing, you've done something right. And as we've seen, that's been the recipe for success to this point for Spike Kohlbecker, who has been on the podium in every race until this one. That's allowed him to build such a substantial lead, and it helps to make some progress then on the championship leader when you can bank good results in consecutive days.
3 wins total now for Will Robusto in this series, 2 coming last year. He won at Sonoma, he won at Road America, finished 4th in points for RVA Graphics last year, and 3 wins on 3 very different racing circuits. I think he will be proud of this one. But for Will Robusto, job done. Not ending in the fashion he would have thought, but for him, DeLong and Fletcher, I think they will be relieved that some of the battling is over, because some of the door-to-door action we saw was phenomenal, but it came to blows at the end and put the field under yellow. We saw the checkered flag early. Let's take a look at how it all shakes out. Your winner today for RVA Graphics Motorsport by Speed Syndicate is Will Robusto. After 14 laps of racing, a few spent behind the safety car, Parker DeLong finishes a wonderful 2nd ahead of Jeremy Fletcher, a good haul of points in 3rd. Ethan Ayers is 4th with Max Schweid. Another strong effort for him after he charged through the field yesterday. Nico Colby, another effort inside the top 10 for the youngster. He finishes 6th with Joseph Malley in 7th. Colby down the order. Stephen Colby for Copeland Motorsports had an off-track moment, regained a 13th place position. Massimo Sinceri, huge effort in a rebuild for the number 51 to finish 14th today for BSI Racing. Another rebound as well for someone who was in the ward yesterday. Liam Harrison in the number 55 Black Dog Racing car. Maite Caceres finishes 17th as your highest finishing female today, but the day belonged to Will Robusto. It'll be soggy celebrations, I think, but celebrations nonetheless. We saw a penalty for Emilio DeLaro in the 007. We saw the 93 of Brunson ordered behind Ava Schletz. That's where they will finish. Schletz in 19th position. A little bit of attrition in this race, losing a few cars to contact, tussling, and the 72 of Ethan Goulart, who was a contender early on, pulled off the side of the racetrack about midway through.
Yeah, that's really frustrating for Ethan. Had a really strong day going up to that point, but something technically amiss, and that cut his day short. Then a couple of cars that we lost due to attrition yesterday that didn't take the start there in Radian Arahu.
Yeah, Rainey, a relative newcomer to this series. Arahu, someone for VSI Racing, who Shea was saying just really liked the challenge that GR Cup provided. We'll look ahead to Road America for his next effort there. Same too with the 24 of Skip Barber Racing. So race officials today, Ryan, doing the safe thing. You can see the SRO branded jackets out in full effect. The fans in attendance around this beautiful racing circuit will have the umbrellas up as everyone takes a little bit of shelter. Car 17 now, after the checkered flag, has been assessed a post-race time penalty equivalent. That is a equivalent of a drive-through penalty for tangling with Spike Kohlbecker that sent the two of them off track and caused that caution that we saw before the rain started to fall.
It looks like the rain is, if not quite abated, certainly lessened dramatically, and that then at least should allow for the podium festivities to take place as normal, and that's good. If you know you have the chance to get up there and celebrate, it's a special thing. As we talked about, a series as competitive as this one is, and you can see the celebrations there. This really depending on who you are and what your goals are coming into the weekend. Of course, the big winner is Robusto, but there's several other happy folks throughout this field as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I come back to Nico Colby as well. I mean, just a teenager, debuted part the way through the season. His mom brought him to the first race, and she watched on from the stands. A dazzling effort, but I think none today will be happier than Will Robusto. Has climbed successfully out of the race car, has the Continental collar on, and we'll get to celebrate now and hopefully spray a little bubbly in ever-drying conditions, even though the track is well and truly wet.
That was a curious one. It was a sudden squall, and it was pretty serious when it hit. The first warning was when that wind picked up and was blowing all over the track, but as quickly as it arrived, it's now more or less moved on. Just a light drizzle now here over the Brazelton, Georgia area.
Such is a feature of racing in this part of the country at this time of year. It is summer. We've seen how hot it can be and how quickly it can turn around. I guarantee it's not cold or frigid out there, but it is a little wet. In drying conditions, Will Robusto has found Amanda Busick, who has been patrolling Victory Lane.
Yes, and we've had celebrations already down here for Will Robusto going as his team and family come and join him. First win on the season, and I know you've been digging for this one all year long. Why did it fall your way today, Will?
Qualifying, it started in qualifying. We got a good effort. We qualified up front, and it was get to the front from there. Everybody knew the weather was going to come, and I was battling a broken shifter for a long duration of the race, but on the restart we were able to get through, get a gap, and keep the lead.
What could this mean for the rest of the season for you?
It's definitely momentum. Going forward, we struggle at COTA, but this is a good rebound for the last couple races.
All right, good luck, Will.
Thank you.
Amazing to hear that he's able to battle as hard as he was with shifting issues as well. Came into this weekend, Ryan, fourth in the points, but fairly close to Max Schweid. Just 2 points of a difference between him and Max Schweid, who we finished ahead of, and not all that far off the back of Jeremy Fletcher either. Also finished ahead, but, also finished behind today, despite finishing ahead yesterday. But what a crazy race. Plenty of racing action. We saw weather. We saw contact. Let's take a look now at how it unfolded. Drop of the green flag in warm and sunny conditions. A couple of cautions interrupted the running. It was Spike Kohlbecker, but a massive save from Jeremy Fletcher and from eventual winner Will Robusto behind. Remarkably holding on to the race cars through the S's. It was Will Robusto on the charge early, not wasting any time to get ahead of points leader Spike Kohlbecker, and he would stay there despite a few challenges. They would go door to door and wheel to wheel. Spike tried as he might. They would go Noah's Ark down the hill. Jeremy Fletcher was fighting to stay in contention alongside Ethan Goulart, who would pull off the racetrack and bring out the first of two cautions today alongside this beautiful Georgian racetrack. Will Robusto had one restart to contend with. He would not restart the second, but Spike Kohlbecker shuffled back in the order, tangling with many of his compatriots, one of which was the 78. There was drama in the form of rain that ended the race early, fans taking shelter, but Will Robusto taking home the top prize today. Windshield wipers ablaze. He wins race 2 in Road Atlanta. An incredible effort today. We talked about the championship points at length, and I'm curious to see how they shake out. Here's how they sit. Spike Kohlbecker understandably retains his position, albeit with a little bit of a hit today, not finishing the race. Jeremy Fletcher in second on 116 points, and also in triple digits is race winner Will Robusto. But Max Schweid with 93 points has made a big jump up the order in fourth. Parker DeLong, a really great weekend for him in fifth. A great weekend of racing. Ryan Marine, thank you so much for joining us, and huge thanks to the rest of our broadcast crew today as we take a look at the full-page results. I've been Jonathan Grace. Amanda Busick has been patrolling pit lane. 2 dazzling weekends of racing, 2 great races across a couple of days. I'm Jonathan Grace from Ryan Marine. Thank you. We'll see you next time from Atlanta.